Is your husband okay with this risk? And obviously you're upset about it. It's very clear you disagree with President Trump's decision to start this attack. Do you know how your husband feels?
He's also not happy. And I will say, more than any other decision that any commander in chief has made, in his entirety being in the military, more service members are being vocally upset about this than we've ever seen before. And I think the thing that people have to keep in mind is that it's one thing to accept taking on risk to protect your country, but it is very obvious to a lot of service members and a lot of military families that this has nothing to do with protecting Americans. This has everything to do with distracting from this administration's dismal performance at home. And what we aren't okay with, what my husband isn't okay with, is risking their lives to serve that distraction. I think the administration needs to make sure they get their story straight before they expect anyone to buy it, given that they've come out, they've said this hasn't been about regime change, then it was about regime change. Ted Cruz went on the news and said that he did not see any evidence that any sort of Iranian strike was even a possibility, much less imminent. So I think it's very clear that they are lying, and they're saying whatever they can to get Americans on board with this. And I just hope that people do not fall for the propaganda and do not fall for, they need to understand, not just this administration, a lot of administrations hide behind the idea of you have to always support the troops. And if you criticize the administration, you're criticizing the troops. That is not the case. This administration is putting the troops at risk unnecessarily, and criticizing the administration is supporting the troops. It is protecting the troops.
Explain to people what it's like for you and your family members in these moments when you don't hear from your loved one who is deployed in the Middle East right now.
It's horrifying. It's really terrifying. It's months and months of feeling like you're going to throw up every time you hear your doorbell ring, because you know that when you open the door, it could be men in their dress uniforms standing there to tell you that your spouse or that your son or that your, whoever it is, that your loved one has been killed. It's terrifying. And I think it's also important to note that a lot of the service members that are directly involved in the strikes on Iran, they are already at their wits' end. I mean, there are something like 4,500 sailors signed to the USS Gerald Ford. The USS Gerald Ford, they've had their deployments extended twice already. They have hundreds of broken toilets on their ship, so they have very few facilities they can use. And all of that is because of the impulse decisions of this administration. And I think that's important to note, especially because sailors end up not talking to their families for months at a time. And these are the same men and women that were sent and involved in Venezuela first, and then he just impulse sent them to Iran next. So it's terrifying. There is not any amount of deployments now that can be. We understand not everything about deployment is going to be predictable, but now the way that this administration moves so impulsively has made every second of your loved one being deployed terrifying in a really active, in your face way that it was not before.